Okay, so we think we're here together. Listen to these words coming from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, coming from the system that he's been involved in, the Tibetan Buddhist system, all these centuries, coming from all the literature of these amazing yogis and scholars about the mind, about life, about death, about reincarnation, and particularly the advice from Rinpoche about how to help at the time of death. Help do what? Help people die peacefully and virtuously so they can ensure for another decent human rebirth and don't lose the plot for off for a few countless lifetimes. You know, it's a crucial time. Because as Rinpoche says, it's at the time of death that your next life is determined. So it's an incredibly important time to help your animals, the bird, the moth, your grandmother, whoever, to help them find the best way you can to ensure that when they die, their consciousness will take at least another human rebirth. Bottom line, that's your job. That's it. That's the perspective here, you know. So we think we're going to listen to all this advice, and if it's useful, we'll try to take it on board, apply it for ourselves, and so we can help others. So, because the long-term plan is so that we can continue working on our minds, so we can become a Buddha, so we can benefit others. Sangye Chodang Soke Chognam La, Janchu Badu Dagni Kyapsu Chi, Dagi Chonyan, Gipe Sonam Ki, Jola Penche, Sangye Drupa Sho, Sangye Chodang Soke Chognam La, Janchu Badu Dagni Kyapsu Chi, Dagi Chonyan, Gipe Sonam Ki, Jola Penche, Sangye Drupa Sho. So we're saying we're going to, you know, take refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and by the virtue of listening to these teachings, may we become a Buddha, so we can benefit poor suffering sentient beings. That's the plan. So the bottom line is, when the death process starts, which can be a couple of hours before the breath stops, that's the period in which the karmic seed kicks in or is triggered. It's a very precise thing, technical, that will determine the next life. And you want it to be a virtuous karmic seed, which means you need to give the appropriate conditions that's conducive for that to happen. And to help a person be virtuous, you need to help them be peaceful. It's very clear. And this virtuous idea sounds a bit holy and silly to us. It just means the mind to be more in relation to love, accepting impermanence, having a bit of wisdom, a bit of compassion, a bit peaceful. Peaceful and virtue go together. Delusions and non-virtue go together. And because death is such a fearsome experience for most people, unless you've done a lot of work. And if you think about it, you know, given that if our mind goes back and back, you know, beginningless, whatever, and given that every millisecond of what we experience, nothing goes astray, is left in the mind, in our memory, and it leaves seeds in the mind. So then this is what we would mean by instinctive, you know. So many things are instinctive. So this fear, I mean, the intensive fear of death, you can't just say, oh, you know, we've sort of made it up. It's because of eons of living and dying and not wanting, because we've got this grasping at things as permanent, you know. So we've built up this lifetimes of habit, lifetimes. No one has to teach us to have fear. It's the nature of the delusions. And the source of the fear, the main reason there is fear, Lama Zopa says, death is attachment. So that means we have to understand attachment. It's such a simple word, you know, but the use of it in our culture is fundamentally different from the way Buddha uses it. So we have to know what he means by it. We conflate them, you know, it's so inappropriate. And to understand that, we have to get, again and again, repeating, we have to see this clear distinction in the Buddha's view. It's unique to the Buddha's view about the mind. this clear distinction between the character of the neurotic states of mind, the negative states of mind, the non-virtuous states of mind, and the positive ones. And we kind of know it intuitively. We don't join the dots, you know. You know, if you wake up one morning, you're feeling fairly peaceful. That means you're feeling fairly loving. You're feeling very kind. You're feeling easygoing. Another day you wake up anxious and worried or angry and jealous, and you know it's just distressing as hell. So we kind of know it, but we don't join the dots. So we have to train our minds to be therefore virtuous, you know, which takes a lot of work. And that's what we try to accomplish for people at the time of death, whether it's your animal, your grandmother. So there's a multitude of ways of doing that. And so, of course, as all these chapters, One is first to know what to see, what to touch, how to hear, the way the room is itself, how do we have it peaceful and pleasing, but to see certain things, because everything needs an imprint. And even for your doggy or your pussy, you know, one friend of mine has a whole bunch of little, what do you call them? I just said it yesterday. Those little animals, what do you call them? Guinea pigs. And she has little speakers in the guinea pigs' houses, you know. And they hear the mantras and they hear the sound. So two dogs recently, both freaking out, both distressed. The vet says knock them off, you know, not being rude. But they both decided not to. So they simply put their doggies in the little thing, had mantras playing. It's not because it's holy even, but well, it is to do the Buddhas, but it's because it's peaceful and it focuses. If you've got something to, you know, you've got something to anchor your mind to, your mind can be more calm. If your mind's just sort of rushing around because attachment's so primordial, attachment is like a junkie to find something to cling on to. So if you've got your attachment there, but you hear a peaceful sound, it calms you right there. Little animals. So both of these dogs, contrary to the advice from the vets and contrary to what the vets said that they'd die soon, didn't die soon, and when they did die, they were really relaxed and peaceful, you know. So we have to have courage to think this way because we don't want our animals to suffer. And then we're almost accused of causing them to suffer if we don't kill them. So we've got to be very cautious and very, very courageous. And of course, there's masses of fear. So there's a multitude of ways of helping people. But, you know, if you come along and see your grandma having fear and then you add your fear to the mix, well, you're going to drown together, you know. So you've got to really work on your own mind and be able to understand what's going on, whether it's a doggy or your grandma, and not to feed into your own fears so that you know how to help. I mean, just talking ordinary life, like I mentioned, I think yesterday, when, you know, if there's a drama going on and you all buy into the drama, you're all going to have a panic attack. Nobody can help anybody. But if you stay steady, you can influence everybody else and people will turn to you and rely upon you, you know. So when we understand I have to understand attachment. So attachment is this primordially deep delusion. It's not the root delusion. The root delusion, the cause of samsara, is this ego grasping that assumes an inherent, intrinsic, separate, permanent, independent me, which is so primordial. I mean, it just sounds abstract to us. And its main voice is attachment. So if we can begin to understand attachment, and as far as the Four Noble Truths are concerned, it's the main cause of suffering. So we need to understand if that's true. It's multifaceted, you know. Lama Yeshe said, I can tell you about it for one whole year. You'll never begin to understand it until you start practicing, going deep into your mind. You begin to put meat on the bones, you know. You make it a real experience, and it takes an enormous amount of practice and years to identify it precisely. So it's multifaceted. The most fundamental level of attachment, we're born with it, is dissatisfaction, this deep, aching feeling, this aching assumption that we think is the truth, that somehow I don't have enough. This is the evident one when it comes to food, you know. Food's an obvious one. The suffering of people, everybody on the planet practically has attachment to food and attachment to the body, isn't it? And as Lama Yeshe said, you people are ridiculous. You can never work out which one you're more attached to, the body or the food, you know. So we struggle, go between two. But a constant feeling, isn't it, of not having enough. I mean, that's what drives the grossest level of attachment: food, sex, money, whatever it is. You've never got enough. It's deeply ingrained, painful. Never got enough. You're never enough. It's never enough. And this is the aching pain of attachment. Because the assumption the other one of attachment is when you think you haven't got enough, so then you hanker for something, and then there's a chocolate cake, and that's your karmic habit. And then you're convinced when you get it, it will be enough. It'll fill you up. I remember watching one of those shows where all, you know, suffering people, and one was about people who are, you know, overweight. And one little girl, about 400 pounds, 500 pounds, and her mother was so poignant. She said, oh, she's always been like this. She never felt full. I mean, that's a very fascinating point. Full is the stomach. Satisfaction is the mind. We conflate them. I knew as a little girl, I just ate until I felt full because I didn't know anything else. I don't know we don't realize, even now we don't realize that satisfaction is not a function of the senses. This is a tremendous point already, I tell you, just to realize this. That attachment is not a function. You can't get satisfaction. You can't get satisfied with the senses. You can't get satisfaction from food. You can't get satisfaction from bodies or money. It's not possible. Satisfaction is a mental state that you have to cultivate mentally. I mean, this seems so simple, but it's like a revelation when we hear it. But we keep eating food waiting for satisfaction to come, but it never does. In fact, not only does satisfaction not come, this is a tragedy. You want to vomit because you keep eating, hoping it'll come, and it all comes as a stuffed stomach. That's a terrible downside of attachment. Not only do you not get satisfied, now the cake looks disgusting, and you want to vomit. So we've got to analyze these things, you know. Satisfaction, the profound dissatisfaction, is not a physical state, it's a mental one. And what's it come from? Eons of practicing attachment. You know, it's so sad, so heartbreaking. So when we have it badly, it's not only I don't have enough, but I am not enough. This is the most painful experience in our culture. So we loathe us, a self-loathing, basically. I'm nothing, I'm nobody. You know. This is the pain of attachment. So then the next level of attachment, because you're feeling like you're missing something, naturally you think of what's missing. Oh, cake. So the obvious level is the objects of the senses. It's the obvious next level, isn't it? The obvious level. The simplest one. The objects you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. The outside world, basically. So then attachment kicks into the dissatisfaction, something's missing, and then it kicks into anticipating. You think, oh, good, the cake will do it. So then you home in on the cake, fixating on it. Because one of the signs of attachment, another one, is that you think about it all the time. It's in your mind all the time. We all know that one. So you imagine the cake. So then you have to get the cake. And then the next bit is anticipating, and this is often the nicest part of attachment, or the excitement of anticipating getting it. And nothing's going to stop us. And so the key one of attachment in here is its key job is to then exaggerate the deliciousness of the cake and the function and the capacity to exaggerate the capacity of the cake to give you satisfaction. But we're totally convinced. The excitement of anticipation of that meal. Every time I go out for a meal and my stomach's empty, you have to control yourself like a 5-year-old, you know. You're so excited. Of course, you act like an adult. You don't show you're all excited. You'd be embarrassed, you know. A little mind working overtime, isn't it? Anticipating, and it comes and it's all fresh and hot and delicious, and you can't wait. And why? Because you're anticipating, and this is the point, you're anticipating satisfaction. Another way to put that, you're anticipating the pleasant feeling. We can spend the whole of the evening just on this. If we have the time, I would. I tell you. Understanding the mind and this model of the mind is really important, I tell you. There are three characteristics, three key divisions into which you can put all your thousands of mental states. Those that are neurotic, delusional, and totally miserable. Those that are valid and virtuous and useful. And the third lot are neither negative nor positive. And it's an odd concept to us. And until we understand these two, you're not going to understand the third one. And these are really, I call them the mechanics of the mind, like concentration, good memory. A murderer and a meditator need mindfulness. So in its nature, it's not virtuous. It's just what the mind does. It's neither good nor bad. It's why you do it, you know. So there's like the mechanics of the mind. There's a whole bunch of those. And oddly, but this is so important to understand, and I mentioned this in the 12 links yesterday, one of those in that category, the third category, is incredibly important, but it really gives it incredibly powerful status. When he talks about the 5 links, the 12 links, it's got its mention in there. Yeah, feeling. The 5th, the 6th, the 6th or the 7th of the links, feeling. And also in the 5 aggregates, feeling is given as status as one of the most important. Why? Because this feeling one, it's not used in the way we use the word, like an emotion, not like that. We only have 3 kinds of feeling using this type of analysis: pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Well, please forget the neutral. All we notice is the pleasant and the unpleasant. So pleasant feeling is another term for happy feeling, or even the word happiness. We experience them through the sensory consciousness, pleasant feeling, like, pleasant strokes you as pleasant feeling. Or we experience it mentally, but we wouldn't even know what that means, because we base everything on our body, on the senses. As Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, we make the body the boss. So we judge everything in terms of whether or not it gives us a pleasant sensory experience. That's our criterion of happiness in this life. We wouldn't even know about the mental states. So that you've got very pleasant feelings, extremely pleasant feelings, joy, ecstasy, rapture, whatever word you want coming out of poetry and all the literature. That's all called a feeling, and it's the good one, the nice one, not the good, virtuous, not positive or negative, but pleasant. It doesn't have a character of being negative or positive. It just is what it is. But we think, if we get too excited, we think it's a sin. Oh, rapture, you can't have that, Need God's permission. That's why it's called a sacrament from the Christian perspective, isn't it? God has to give you permission to have it. It's a gift from God. Buddha doesn't have that view. It's your own mind. Then you got unpleasant, very unpleasant, nightmarishly unpleasant, like the worst suffering you can imagine, being tortured, or incredible physical pain, or terrible mental pain. Like my darling sister after her husband died. The pain is unbearable. That's not physical, that's mental. We all understand these, but we have to learn to distinguish. Already there's a revelation, physical and mental. So feeling, we only ever want, Buddha always says, we all want happiness and we don't want suffering. It's a fact. Every being is driven by this, and this is what we're talking about. So our way, and this is the tragedy of samsara, the only way we know how to trigger a pleasant feeling, to have a pleasant feeling, is to get an object of our senses, or to have a fantasy, to think about your boyfriend. That's the best we can do. Second best is have the fantasy, isn't it? Use your mind to imagine. Our minds are very creative. But to get contact with the object, isn't it? So that's why we crave contact with the sensory object, which is the outside world, basically. And we want to have contact with the 5 objects of the senses that will trigger a pleasant feeling in us. Mainly our senses, what we know. And that's what we call happiness. The meal, the boyfriend, the weather, the music, the handbag, the clothing, whatever it might be, So because we're feeling dissatisfied, dissatisfaction is another word for unhappy feeling, basically. Dissatisfaction is an unhappy feeling. It's an unhappy feeling. It's an unhappy feeling. It's unpleasant. So therefore, attachment's job is this junkie to find objects such that when you get contact with them will trigger a pleasant feeling. So when these junkies looking for heroin 24 hours a day, basically, because we don't know how to have pleasant feelings on our own. This is the tragedy of samsara, But the tragedy is, like I said before, this is Buddha's point, we can prove it. There you are feeling dissatisfied, which is an unpleasant feeling. So what's missing? And you think, oh, well, cake. Depending on your, it depends if you're my friend in like I said, the guy I know in Kentucky on death row, friend of my Buddhist friend Mitchell, my friend Mitchell told me, Robina, he thinks of torture all the time. That's his karmic tendency. Can you imagine the nightmare? Being born with a tendency to torture. No, your mother didn't teach you. You don't know where it comes from. Like I said, our problem is cake. You understand? So dissatisfaction. So it's the unpleasant feeling. We can't bear it. It's just too unbearable. So attachment's frantically looking for something such that when you get contact with it, you'll have a pleasant feeling, which makes the unpleasant feeling go away. This is how we spend our lives. No wonder we're exhausted. But the tragedy is, as Buddha points out to us, and we know it's true, but it's unbearable to face it. Not only when what happens is, dissatisfaction, which is pain, which is unpleasant feeling. You think of the cake as when you have it, and you get overexcited, anticipate, and exaggerate, just absurdly exaggerate its deliciousness. So you can't wait to get it in the mouth. You don't get confused. Where do I put it? You don't put it in here. You know where it belongs. It's like little piggies and little babies come out of the womb, and they know exactly where to go for their milk. They don't have to be taught by mummy. Habit is very strong from past karma. Or you like those little monkeys, some kind of monkey, I don't know what kind, who particularly attached to sex. When they pop out of mummy, they turn around, have sex with mummy, daddy, grandma, grandpa, sister, uncle, auntie, who they don't mind, That would be a hard attachment to get hold of, wouldn't it, to handle. Cake's bad enough. Oh my God. Torture. Torture's terrible. It's when at least you don't harm anybody. With cake, you just harm yourself, But torture, can you imagine? Like poor Mr. BTK, can you imagine? Oh, so unbearable. So, you have this, then you're overexcited, you're waiting for the pleasant feeling to come, you're waiting for the alleviation of the unpleasant feeling, which is so painful. And then you get the cake and you're convinced you're utterly convinced it's going to come. And this is a tragedy. It does come. Pleasure does come. Pleasant feeling when cake meets tongue, pleasant feeling, sensory, does come. So you've got to ask the question, why do you have to have a second piece? A second mouthful? Because you know why? There's all these parts of our mind working, the anticipation, all the bits and pieces, knowing there's chocolate cake, you analyze it, it is chocolate cake, you check it, it's a good chocolate cake, it could have won the blue ribbon at the ladies' show. What do you call it here? We call it the Royal Melbourne Show. What do you call it when people, old-fashioned days? That's the one, that one, exactly. Could be the best chocolate cake. While you're looking at it, you're also assessing it because you're professional, that's intellectual, that's mental. Then you taste it, and your intellectual side is assessing it as a really good taste. You can be doing all that, but the taste is delicious. Pleasure is triggered. It's true, it is. But what happens is right next to that pleasant feeling, so that the attachment which has been anticipating it, now you get in the mouth, you'd think attachment goes, oh, now I'm happy, and you go to sleep. Attachment goes to sleep. No, attachment instantly says, that's not enough pleasure. The attachment is dissatisfied right there. So, you've got to have a mouthful. So the anticipation starts again because you're not satisfied. That's attachment, not being satisfied. So you think another mouthful will do it. And we know already the pleasure is going down. We know the best pleasure is the first one. But attachment's not satisfied. So you have to have a second mouthful. And then a third, and then you're kidding yourself. And then there's a distress in there because from countless experiences just in this life. But it's not going to come, but you keep trying, isn't it? Until eventually you can't eat more, you'd vomit. So not only does satisfaction not come, it triggers more dissatisfaction. This is literally the summary of samsara, So we know it's true, but because we can't think of another method, we don't know what other method to get pleasure. So we change the cake and have carrot cake. Or you change the boy and have a girl. Do you understand? Or you change your clothing, or you change your gender. I'm not being rude, but we're never satisfied. So we think something else will do it, and then something else will do it, and then something else will do it until we die of exhaustion. We understand this. So feeling is neither negative nor positive. This is what's curious. And the only way to understand it is by understanding what he means by negative and positive, virtuous and non-virtuous. It's a very specific way of classifying. We don't think this way in modern psychology. It sounds like naughty, It sounds like religion. But it's a very powerful meaning in Buddhist psychology. Why was I saying all this? I'm just talking about attachment, that's all. So all the other things too. So, okay, so then we think, well, if Buddha's telling us, this is Buddha's analysis of why we suffer, and it's a pretty nice analysis. So then we have to say, well, excuse me, mate, what's your option? Mr. Buddha, would you mind giving me your option? But he doesn't tell you immediately. He's trying to get you to practice and you find it for yourself. But it takes so long to hear what the option is. It just sounds like you're not allowed to have pleasure, you know. We think of it like that. It's not like that. All really what Buddha's saying is all Buddha has found. That's why these genius Indians who invented you know, who invented this technique, single point of concentration, they discovered the bliss of the mind. They discovered it, the bliss, the incredible bliss, ecstasy, joy, clarity, and wisdom clarity that you can't even imagine that our own mind is capable of once you've subdued the grosser levels. That's what these Indians discovered. And they invented the technique to do it. Everybody, it's there, not just cross your fingers and hope for the best. So even forget about realizing emptiness, forget about bodhicitta, forget about anything else. Buddha has techniques. He's basically saying, you know, that we think, being in samsara means we think that happy feelings, pleasure, are what we get when we get what attachment wants. Not just objects of the senses, but, you know, some people are more attached to getting, I mean, me, I'm not, I mean, clothing, I wear the same, I mean, it's so funny, I'm sort of weird confession here. It sounds weird to people. I've got less clothes than a homeless person. I've got this one set of robes somebody made me in France about 6-7 years ago, and I've now got a house. I'm in an apartment, and I've got a closet. I never had a closet before. I had just a bag, you know, so I couldn't afford to carry around more than one set of robes, so I never checked in bags. I hated it. So I'd wear my clothing, and then I'd wash them overnight, and I don't mind. It sounds weird to people who have closets of clothing. I know that. Don't have to feel sorry for me or think I'm weird. But I've got this one set of robes, and now I've got a closet for 1 year, and I still don't have a second set of robes. I mean, I know it sounds weird. What I'm saying is, what am I saying? So I'm not attached to clothing. That's one thing I'm telling you. That's what I'm getting at. I've got 4 coats. I've got 5 pairs of socks, 4 pairs of shoes, but my one set of robes. And even the collar's fraying, but nobody notices that. So it's okay, and I wash them again. They don't look like 7 years old, been wearing for 24 hours. No, I take them off at night. But you wouldn't never know, would you, they're 7 years old, wearing the only thing for 7 years. It sounds poorer than a homeless person. So I'm pointing out I'm not attached to clothing. Why am I pointing that out? For some reason, I forgot. And that was a confession. It was a weird confession. I know. You don't have to feel sorry for me. It's all right. I like my robes. And then because you turn them around, you see, so just one big oval piece, so you cover up the dirty mark, you see. You cover that way. You don't see. It's very convenient. Anyway, why am I telling you that? I can't remember. So about attachment. Yeah, we think, basically Buddha's saying we think attachment, we think happy feelings are what we get when we get what attachment wants. Yeah, that's right. Some of us attached to food. Some attached, well, I mean, attached to multiple things. Some of us are attached to clothing. Some of us attached to other things. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. I mightn't be attached to clothing, I promise. But I'm very attached to getting what I want when I want it. You get my point? I like things to be the way I want. I'm a very good action person. I get things done, but there's got to be the way I want, when I want it, how I want it, exactly. That's my main attachment. Give me one set of robes for 7 years, I don't mind. I'm still not bored by them. I'm wearing them for 45 years. I'm still not bored. Do you understand? That means I'm satisfied with my clothing. Do you understand? But when I want what I want, those people better do that's, you know, everyone's different. People attached to money, people attached to comfort, people attached to, we can see a multitude of things. All depends on your karma, you know. So the point is, we believe that satisfaction and happiness comes when our attachment gets what it wants. Or that happiness is what you get when you get what attachment wants. That's the methodology of samsara. And Buddha's saying, sorry guys, mistake. Not moralistic, just practical. He says happiness, pleasant feelings, are what you get when you give up attachment. That's his methodology. That's even before you realize emptiness. That's what, all he's saying is that. And if you can stay hold of that, then you know where you're going. You know what it's for. You know why you're doing it, you know. Then you can have some patience. Because it's going to be a while. Don't hold your breath. But we can practice. As Lama Zopa says, she says, we have to learn to be content. Content is another word for satisfaction. It's a mental state that you have to cultivate. It doesn't come from sensory objects. It can't. It's not moralistic. It doesn't matter. It's not moralistic. Like you shouldn't have more than one boyfriend. It's not an issue. It's not a question of shouldn't. It's just not the method. And we all know that. You hear these hilariously funny stories. I remember one girl, you know, because people use Tinder, and I've heard about Tinder. I wish I had it when I was going around looking for boys. I had to work hard, go out in the street and point them out and grab them and seduce them. Here, just press a button. Wow. Anyway, this girl said it was rather distressing that she's having sex with a boy. She just finished and she's getting dressed and she looks over at the bed and he's on Tinder for the next girl. Do you understand? Or one boy who went to Sex Anonymous, you know, he said he'd be having sex with the 20th girl that day and then he's anticipating the 21st. That's how attachment works because it's never satisfied. Even as I'm having my coffee in the morning, first you're anticipating it while I'm on my meditation cushion, believe me, anticipating my coffee. Then you're making it and you're smelling it. It's all delicious and you're anticipating it. And then I'm having my first mouthful, second mouthful, and I'm anticipating the second cup. It's like it's anxious, you know, you're worried. Do you understand?
Yeah.
We all recognize, right? That's called attachment. People that dysfunction.
Is the first sip okay?
What do you mean by that?
Or not attachment?
What do you mean by that? What's your question mean? What do you mean by that, sweetheart?
Sure.
What you're hearing me say is you're naughty, and aren't I allowed to have some pleasure, you're saying, sort of thing. Am I allowed to have the first pleasure? Is that attachment, you said? You said it's the first mouth, that attachment, you said.
I think I was hearing that is that considered attachment?
So you haven't been hearing what I'm saying? You haven't been hearing all the things I've been saying, the story, this horrible story I'm talking about dissatisfaction, what makes you think about the coffee, anticipating it, exaggerating it, making it, getting it, frantically waiting. What do you think that is if it's not attachment? You see what I'm saying? Attachment is energy, this dissatisfaction that drives you to even get the coffee and anticipate the happy feelings. It's all attachment. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's all the process of attachment under the false belief that when I get it, I'll get happy. So it's trying to see the lie in it, which doesn't mean you have to become fundamentalist and, you know, so just describing it. So when we can understand the process, then we have to learn to navigate and work with it. And that's why this is a point now. As when we realize that satisfaction or contentment are mental states and not sensory, you've got to hear that, you know. So we passively wait for a feeling of satisfaction to come after the meal. But the only way we know we think we're satisfied is when we feel full. That's my point. That lady, the mother, she was so poignant. This girl is 400, 500 pounds. She's always been like that. She never felt full. So you keep eating until you feel stuffed, don't you? You see, and so that's the only way we know that we don't think satisfaction is a state you have to cultivate mentally, which means disciplining yourself to not have the seventh piece of cake and practice thinking it's enough. That's how you practice contentment. This is not moralistic, but it just takes time because you don't believe it immediately because you don't feel full. You don't feel satisfied after the first piece. Because the habit to eat the cake is so strong. The habit to drink the alcohol, the habit to have the sex, the habit to want the thing, the habit to do everything. It's multifaceted, this attachment. And it's so primordial and so pervasive that it seems shocking and unfair to even point it out. It's just like normal behavior, you understand? So we have to analyze it. But to hear that satisfaction can't come through the senses. It has to be a state of mind that you cultivate. Saying, oh, I'm content. And it's sort of like you're faking it in the beginning because you don't feel content. But you're trying to, it's like giving up being an alcoholic. It's incredibly painful, but you know there's no shortcut. The only way to give up attachment to alcohol is go through the pain of suffering. Well, that's what attachment demands, giving up attachment. It's painful. But if you know the benefit, you're prepared to do it, you know, because the mind is very flexible. The mind eventually will become more satisfied. But mentally, it's a conceptual thought. That's the part that's really shocking. You have to remember to practice it. Not just get disciplined and only eat one piece of cake and then feel miserable, which is what we do. Kind of feel like you're suffering, you know. You've got to learn to change your attitude towards it by thinking that was really, you try to appreciate it and you try to have that moment of pleasure because that moment of pleasure is real. That pleasure that you have when the cake meets the mouth is an experience of pleasure. So instead of greedily wanting the second one because you missed the first one, you try to retain the first one and be content with it. It's practice. It's practice. It's practice. And it's really hard work. Are we communicating?
Mm.
So attachment is dissatisfaction. Then it brings what's missing, and you hanker. Then you come up with a new thing. And then you hanker after it, and manipulate to get it, control to get it, then anticipate it, and all the time exaggerating its power, exaggerating its deliciousness. And that's the trouble, as Lama Zopa says, because we practice all this for so long, the way the cake appears back to us, that cake on that plate, the way it appears back to us is, the way they say it is, in the aspect of whatever's in your mind. So incredible excitement is in your mind, anticipation, attachment, it will look totally divine. What makes it look divine is your mind. This is very shocking for us. Attachment exaggerates it. Because it could be the best, most professional chocolate cake on the planet. But if you're full of 7 pieces, it will still look disgusting. Or if you just don't like chocolate cake. So this is why, as Lama Zopa says, bad enough that the world appears wrongly to us through the lenses of whatever's in the mind. Or as Lama Yeshe puts it, the mind's like a mirror, and however things out there appear reflected back to us is according to what's in the mirror. So if the mirror is tainted by attachment or cracked with anger, we all know how the world looks. This is very powerful. The mind's like a mirror. That's very powerful. We don't think it is. So when we're full of attachment, this is the killer. We believe the deliciousness is a quality on the plate, in the cake, that you put a spoonful of in along with the flour and the chocolate. We believe it's actually deliciousness is actually a component of the cake. When you're in love with somebody, nobody in the universe can prove to you that that man is not totally divine. When you're in love, isn't it? The person looks beyond divine. You can't believe, from the toenail to their hair. And then tomorrow you find he cheated on you. Same person, no new grey hairs, no new wrinkles. He now looks evil. I mean, if that's not enough to prove emptiness, I don't know what is.
Venerable Robina, can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Am I shouting again?
No, darling, it's our wonderful machine here. It's a very big machine.
Thank you. Do people that have total renunciation of any attachment, that have achieved that level of total renunciation, do they have opinions whatsoever?
So you're assuming by having renunciation, you've chucked the baby out with the bathwater and become nihilistic. That's your question, assumed, isn't it?
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. So it's like, if as you're working towards renouncing this attachment, you can still have opinions. It's just, and you can have, things that you like and things that you...
No, it's got nothing to do with an opinion. It's got to do with seeing what is true.
Okay.
So this is the part that's difficult. There's a chocolate cake. So what are the facts here? Well, first of all, it is a fact that it is a chocolate cake. So tick the box. You're correct. That's a fact. That's a valid statement. That's a valid cognition. It is a chocolate cake. Then you can even say, because you're an expert, by looking in for 1 second, you can see it's a really well-made chocolate cake. You can have that. That can also be a fact. It's not just an opinion. It's a fact. As long as you see facts, they are valid facts. That is not getting thrown out when you give up attachment to cake. Attachment is laid on top of that. When you remove attachment, it's not as if there's nothing there. That's nihilism. That's bizarre. There's still a cake. There's still a cake that's professionally the best chocolate cake you've ever seen. That's all can be fact. That doesn't, so even this lie of attachment doesn't deny reality. So it's learning to, but we don't see the difference between our interpretation through the lens of attachment and the fact of the cake. We mix them as if they're one thing, which is what is beneath your question.
Mm-hmm.
Attachment, state of mind that is dissatisfaction that then dumps itself onto that cake. And bad enough that, as Lama Zopa says, the cake appears wrongly to us. But the worst thing is, and this is what keeps us paralyzed in samsara, we believe that interpretation is an objective fact. That's what keeps us paralyzed in samsara.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Sarah. Thank you, darling. So this view of the mind, you know, it's very intricate, it's very precise, it's very internal. You have to know your mind so intimately, but you just don't look into your mind to discover attachment or love and see the difference. It's sort of like you don't just look at a rose without knowing botany and suddenly it reveals itself to you as a rose. You can look for 49 years at that flower. If you don't have the theory called botany, which you use as the basis for interpreting that flower, you'll never know what the flower is. So you can look at your mind for 47 years, and we sort of vaguely know jealousy and attachment, whatever, but this very, very clear presentation gives a description, the definition of each state of mind, distinguishes them as deluded or virtuous. You have that as your basis, like your botany. Then when you look at the mind, now when you look at the rose, you suddenly, the awareness is now informed by wisdom. That's what we need, you know. Are we communicating? I suppose that meant yes. So mindfulness is not enough. That's just nihilism. You know, you can have such a mindful awareness of your garden. Let's say you look at your garden and you really concentrate. You can have such perfect awareness, you can even replicate it in a drawing. Hear my point. But what if you haven't learned botany? You can watch that garden till the cows come home. But until you've got knowledge of botany, you have no idea what you're watching. You have to learn, what am I looking at? So just looking at your mind and feeling peaceful, or looking at your breath and letting it come go, all good. But finally, you have to do this analysis. You have to learn the theories, and then you apply those. And you go, wow, that's jealous thought. There's angry thought. There's loving thought. There's kindness thought. The trouble is, of course, we have 1,000 thoughts a second, which is why we've got to get single point of concentration. But we can learn a lot before that, don't worry. So attachment is dissatisfaction. This is the grosser level, you know. It then anticipates, manipulates to get, controls, anticipates, projects, looks forward to, and then, you know, and then waits for the pleasure, blah, that one. But also attachment energy is very, you know, it's kind of, if you've got attached to certain things, you think about them all the time. You think about it all the time. So that could be attachment, just having uncontrolled thoughts, like all the things we call like OCD and all this business. That's just variations of attachment, uncontrolled thoughts, sort of obsessive compulsive, you know. I mean, I joke, but I'm serious, but I'm joking too, but I'm serious. People who like obsessive compulsive is people who like to put things very nicely, isn't it? All clear and organized. You know, excuse me, don't you ever think you're mistaken. That for me is intelligent. The people who make a big mess are the ones who are a problem. But because we mostly just make a mess and get confused, we think OCD people are the ones who are weird. No. Okay, if you're fanatic every second and going crazy. I remember watching that wonderful video. Did you watch that wonderful Netflix show on David Beckham? And he's called OCD because he's like hilarious. But if you analyze it, that very quality of precision about every detail is why he's such a damn good soccer player. Do you understand? Details is everything. A person who's an genius in detail. Okay, if you're out of control with it and obsessive and really extreme, then there's a problem. But just doing things nicely and clearly and looking at every detail and straightening the chair and straightening the dishes and straightening the hangers in your wardrobe, I find that just being sensible instead of living in a mess, you know. So we use our basis of normal as mess. Do you understand? Are we communicating? So don't believe those rubbish those people tell you. And that's attachment energy. Uncontrolled thoughts. I mean, join the universe, people. Everybody's got it. It's called attachment. Never stopping. Chat, 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 chat. Chat, 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 you know. Or always thinking of the past, always looking into the future. That's attachment. No, it's attachment in a multitude of ways. What are the other letters we use? ADHD, attention, what? That's attachment. And no concentration. Just attachment mind out of control. That's all. Variations of it. I'm not trying to diminish it. But, you know, there are methods, and we need methods, and take your medicine as well. But we can learn to work with our mind. The mind, this is what these genius Indians more than 3,000 years ago have found, these brilliant techniques to do exactly that, to transform this incredible mind of ours. Well, that's attachment energy. Feeling incredible, like I'm the deepest, and now we're looking at an emotional level, the deepest attachment, the most painful of all attachments. More than the sex and drugs and rock and roll and things being all nice. Attachment to being liked. This is so primordial, I tell you. It's almost as if this assumption in here is that I am nothing until someone says I'm something. That's why we crave, from the time we're born, we crave people to look at us and smile at us and let us know that what we did or what we said was fine. Then we have enough, then we're able to do it. So we have, it's like when we're really having what you call low self-esteem, it means we have no value for ourselves whatsoever and rely upon other people to like us, basically. Join the universe, people. We've all got this one. They say the yogis in the mountains who've given up everything, you know, they're still thinking of what the people down in the village are thinking about them. That's the deepest attachment, the one to go. It's in the head all the time. What other people are thinking about me. We're referring to other people all the time, and we're judging we're judging ourselves based on how they respond to us. And when we're really painfully full of this one, we can't do anything because we're terrified of upsetting people. You know, this is the deepest attachment we all have, and it's just constant. It's the source of so much pain. They call it attachment to approval, or attachment to reputation. It sounds, but it's attachment to being liked. The assumption being I'm nothing unless you tell me I'm something, and that's why the irony of most relationships. There I am, all needy for you to love me, and there are you, all needy for me to love you, and we prop each other up. You know. Praising each other, and then we're never satisfied, so then we abuse each other in the end, because no one's ever, you never love me. No, I do, but you know you don't. We're never satisfied. So we have to learn to love ourselves. It's the corniest, dumbest thing you could ever say, but that's what giving up attachment brings. It brings satisfaction. You become your own person. All this is attachment. So attachment, then you've got attachment at death is to this body, because this is what we think we are. So the terror, the primordial terror from countless lives of habit, animals have it, everybody has it, of not being me, you know, it's just too unbearable for us, it's too primordial. This is the main source of so much pain at death, you know. So when we can alleviate that person's pain, tell them they're wonderful. One of the things is to speak to a person. There's your mummy, anxious and worried, freaking out, doesn't even know why she's freaking out. You tell her she's a lovely mother. You praise her, you love her, you thank her. It's like nectar. We never think good thoughts about ourselves. So say them. Make her calm, make her peaceful. Lift her heart, you know, lift her mind a little bit. Any questions, people? Any questions on the computer?
I have another question.
Yes, sweetheart.
My question is about when there's a desire that's so strong in you for for wanting others to be happy and wanting nothing but other people to be happy, or like desire for the Dharma to actualize. that
Okay,
desire.
before you go further, that's a really massive statement. So can you please distinguish between wanting others to be happy and wanting the Dharma? Can you say one or the other, please? Because they're very different topics.
Well, wishing like with the four immeasurables, like wishing for happiness for others,
Okay,
and
that's called
wishing.
love. The definition of that is love. Love is
Mhm,
defined as a thought that's saying, may you be happy. So what's your question,
mhm.
Sarah?
The question is when the desire for that is so strong,
What do you
like
mean by desire is so strong? Can you say a bit more about that, sweetheart? What does
yeah,
it
it
sound like? Or what is it?
like
What do you mean?
like it's a feeling of like a physical feeling, and it feels like in my body and in my heart and in my emotions. It's a body sensation and an emotional sensation, and
Well,
it's
you
in my
see,
mind.
body sensation, that's, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to just analyze it.
Hmm.
Bodies, so the sensations of the body only come when the thoughts are strong. So there's a thought, the real source is the thought. So the thought, so tell me just a bit more. So you have this strong thought that you want others to be happy. So what do you mean by that? I understand the words are great. So let's say some more. You said when the desire is so strong. What do you mean? So what's the question from that?
I think the question is, I might not even have a question. I mean, that I think
Needs
that
have you said it? So there must be some question from it, darling. Otherwise, when the desire is so strong. So what's the conclusion from that? What's the question from that? What do you want to do with that? What's the point?
I think the point is that sometimes that desire gets it like an ache or a longing, and I'm
Well,
confused
that's
about that
attachment. That's
feeling.
attachment.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
attachment. I would suggest
Yep.
that's attachment. So
Okay.
what you're trying to do, okay, you can have strong, I mean, mothers who love their children, not just attached, but people who love each other. There is an ache there, but or a feeling. That's very much also to do with attachment. But if bodhisattvas who don't have attachment, for them it will be a very powerful and an emotion. There's no question. There would be that. But I think for us at the moment, being ordinary, we have to acknowledge there's going to be a lot of attachment involved, and it's very important to try and see the difference, which doesn't mean not to have a strong feeling, but in the end, the feeling you have to do something with it. So what do you think the next step is? You say you do the four immeasurable prayer, then what do you think your next step is?
I think to use that energy that's in that desire or that feeling, and to use it and go out into.
And very kind of hippie trippy. I mean, use that energy. I'm not trying to be rude, Sarah.
Mhm.
If you like the Buddhist path, you need to put words onto what you think the next step is, literally. Use that energy. It's pretty wishy-washy. So what do you mean by love? What do you think love means? Because I'm telling you, that's the definition. May you be happy is the definition of love. May you not suffer is the definition of a thought of compassion. So obviously you have to grow it, don't you?
Yeah.
How would you grow that thought?
For me, I think it would be going
Not
out
for
into.
me. I'm not for me. I'm asking you for me the Buddhist answer. We're talking
Oh,
Buddhist theory here. Not for
it would
you.
be
If you're a Buddhist, you give me a Buddhist answer.
practicing the paramitas, practicing the perfections, generosity, morality.
What happened to knowing your mind? What happened to renunciation? Where's all that gone? You haven't practiced, you've accomplished all that already, have you? Well, then
No,
why are you answering on this? You're answering at the university level. Why not answer at junior school level? What's the junior school level of practice?
I
Do you
can't
know the
remember.
Lam Rim? Yes. No, that's right. So then you'd better. So
Good.
it's not wrong what you're saying, but you're talking about some karma you've got with this path. It's pretty clear. You like the thought of these prayers. The four immeasurable moves your heart, which is wonderful. But you're talking it's sort of like you've got some karmic connection with music, and you sit down and hear some Bach playing, and you get all overwhelmed and emotional, but you don't know how to do the scales yet. Do you see my point? You've got to go
I
back to
very much.
basics, baby, and start at the beginning. take vows, take refuge, take vows, do your purification, do your daily practice, and control your body, control your speech. Then you go to junior school, the middle scope, you start to study the mind, you start to study attachment, and you learn to focus on the delusions and you lessen them. All the work I'm talking about here, that is what prepares you to then go play Bach, which is practice love and compassion and the Maramitas. You with me? Take it back to
Very
basics,
much.
baby. Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
That's the answer.
Perfect. Thank you.
What, darling? What was it?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you talk about how attachment and fear,
And who?
Fear.
Fear. Okay.
Fear of danger, for example.
Fear of danger.
Yeah, like when the example that you gave about like attachment of being liked.
Being what?
The attachment of being liked.
Being who?
Liked. Like,
Light?
Yeah, someone liking.
Oh,
you.
liked. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So part of it can also come from this like fear of danger of being left out.
Okay. All that. So that is all completely, nakedly, perfectly, and totally attachment to being approved of, which is coming from. Okay. So if we understand. Okay. So again, when we look at this Buddhist model of the mind and this categorization into the negative, neurotic, deluded, positive, virtuous, useful, and the mechanics, as I call them, the three divisions, they're all in there in our mind in a big soup together. So when we understand the theory of how these neurotic states of mind are all rooted in the root delusion, the assumption of an intrinsic I, the assumption of an independent, inherent I, separate, in here, somewhere, so primordial. It's that, and so the point is, that is literally rooted in fear. And then all the other delusions, attachment and then aversion and all the others, are all, their flavor is fear. And why is because they're fantasies. They've been building up for eons, believing in things that don't exist. So it's constant fear there. It's just the nature of them. They're in fear. So the attachment one, the deepest one, this one you're talking about, which we have since tiny children, and the greatest pain in our lives is when we're rejected, someone doesn't like us, that's what it's so clear, the worst pain, more than sex, drugs, rock and roll. So the fear is because we don't value ourselves. That's the simple answer to it. Attachment, this painful craving for someone else to say I'm nice, is because I don't think I'm nice. It's so corny to say it this way. You won't read this in the Buddhist text, but this is exactly the analysis. Because the irony of ego is that we think we're nothing. When we're not valid, we're not real, we're not true. There's a feeling of nothing, a feeling of not being real. So therefore we crave a person out there because we're so fearful to even know. I mean, you can say that it's just rooted in fear. And we judge, and this is what we mean by success in our lives at any level. You're successful if someone likes you. If three people, like I even talked to a little kid, the son of a friend of mine, who went to school for the first time. And he said, yeah, I've got 6 friends, Georgina and a few others. And I said, did you go to them or they went to you? Oh, no, they came to me. He's 5. He's already noticed they came to me. So he feels very approved of, you know. If he was left on the soccer ground with nobody liking him, he would have come home really depressed. Do you understand? Because it's so primordial. So if someone comes and smiles at us even, you know, it can be good if we can use it properly, but it can be all puffed up. Oh, wow, me, you know. Or we don't believe it. If I'm having a relationship with you and I'm completely full of self-pity and you tell me 27 times a day that you do love me and you show it, I never believe you. Because you know why? Because I don't believe. I always quote this. 27 people can praise you. You're hungry to hear it, but you don't believe a word. One person says one negative word, you believe it like you're magnetized by it. All that is proof of the irony of ego that we think we're creeps. It's just how it is. It's the analysis. We're trying to keep thinking, well, why? It's because they're false, they're fantasies. We've been believing in fantasies for so long. They're not rooted in dependent arising. Virtues, relatively speaking, are rooted in dependent arising. So as soon as you have a loving thought or a kind thought, your eye goes beyond just you and kind of reaches out to another. So there's a sense of interdependence. So there's a sense of harmony. It's kind of a spaciousness. And that's peaceful. That's a pleasing feeling, you know. So it's just the nature of the delusions. That's how they are. So, of course, if you're a parent You know, since I mean that baby, since we're tiny babies, we've already learned. There you are coming into this life with your own attachment to reputation. Don't blame your parents. You bring your own stuff with you, and then you've got a lot of, let's say, you have a lot of neediness to be approved of. Even as a baby, it's there, and your mummy smiles at you, and you feel, oh wow, I must be okay. And the next day you do the same thing. You kick your right foot up because just today she laughed at you. Tomorrow she's in a bad mood and she'll shout at you. So no wonder we get confused. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we're craving mummy to approve us all the time. So we get completely crazy if our poor mums are crazy, and they all are crazy. So when we go mad. Whereas another child, and you can see it with some children, because I mean, of course, if they come into this life with bodhisattvas come into this life from past life, so they're not going to be upset by their mother not liking them. They're not going to be upset. Of course, we don't think that in our culture. So then it's right there from the beginning, you know. And so then, of course, if you're a peaceful kind of person and you become mummy's little helper, you do everything to make mummy happy, and you are really kind. You're really kind. You're really mummy's helper, but you don't realize it's completely polluted by your craving to be seen as a good girl. And then you get used as a doormat and you wonder why. Because you're craving approval. You say yes to everybody. So you've got to watch that like a hawk. Do you understand? Yeah.
I remember you told a story once when you were last about His Holiness the Dalai Lama had lost one of his very close friends, and someone asked him, I think this is how it went, how can you still be so happy? And aren't you sad? And he said, I'm feeling pain, but I'm not suffering.
I've no idea. I didn't hear all that story.
Well, I read that then.
I don't know those words. I mean, pain, suffering, they're used the same way in Buddhist psychology. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I don't know how he answered, but all I do know is I'd say this. For example, when he talks about his mother, for example, after she died, he'd be in tears. So we assume that's because he's suffering.
Yeah,
But that's the thing about compassion or love, and even the way Sarah's called it, this ache, you know, this sort of way you're talking. So because he wouldn't have any ego, because he has no attachment and sense of loss and neurotic and, you know, he wouldn't have that. It's not possible. So when we think, and that's why Sarah's question, do you end up having no opinions? We chuck the baby out the bathwater, think he has no feelings. No, he was in tears. But that's not suffering. It's compassion and empathy. His mother, he's just talking about her wonderful qualities, and there's kind of his heart wells up. But it's not suffering. So this is another whole point. When we say suffering, we see someone crying, we think they're suffering, but he wasn't suffering, not possible, because he doesn't have attachment or ego. But it's compassion. So a person who's got compassion but not much ego would cry, but it doesn't become sentimental. If it becomes like Anna Sarah's talking, if it becomes all wishy-washy and sentimental, it just becomes pathetic, you know. And the kind of you just sort of you go blur. It's all mixed with attachment. We've got to really distinguish, you know. But the point and there's another whole discussion. When we assume, if you see suffering in the outside world, and then we assume that's why we're suffering, this is a very hard one to hear. But it's not possible. You don't suffer because someone else is suffering. You suffer because your attachment can't stand it. Your attachment is a junkie that only can cope with everything being lovely. And this is not putting us down. This is why we go crazy. This is why we have trauma. This is why we all suffer. This is why we're in tears and weep when we're harmed and our children are murdered. It's not being critical, but we've got to do the analysis properly. You do not suffer because other people suffer. Bodhisattvas only have compassion when they suffer, when they see suffering, and that strengthens. That's the one, Sarah. When you see suffering, you don't just get all sentimental. It strengthens your wish to never give up working on yourself so you'll be able to benefit them. So other people's suffering strengthens you when you're on the bodhisattva path. Whereas if it drags you down, it's because we have attachment, which can only... See, attachment, another way to talk about attachment, it's this junkie in us that's really fragile that can only cope with everything being lovely. It's got to get what it wants every second. It can't cope with problems. That's why aversion and anger are the response when attachment doesn't get what it wants. So it's incredibly fragile. It makes us fragile and very, very fragile. So attachment only wants nice things, and it means it only wants what I want. Nice, by definition, is what I mean by nice, isn't it? And that's all attachment can cope with. So as soon as we see suffering, it's unbearable to us. We can't cope. So that's why we think we're suffering. No, we're suffering because of the attachment, not because of that suffering. Can you see the point? It's huge. It's massive. It's enormously hard. So we protect ourselves. If you can't cope with all the suffering, try and stay away. And if you can't stay away, then you find some strength somehow. I took my friends in prison with unbearable suffering. People have been accused of wrong things. I always use my example, Sunny, my friend. She's in Ireland now. She was on death row for 17 years. Back in the 70s, hitching in Florida with a hippie husband, hippie kids. And they get picked up by two guys, and the police stop the car, and the two guys kill the police, and they blame the hippies. So they're on death row. She's on death row for 17 years, or 12, and then takes another 5 years to get off. Totally innocent. Husband gets executed. She goes to the execution. She's in prison, and his head bursts into flames. I mean, it's like one nightmare after another. You can't imagine. Her children, she lost her children, and they were given to her parents, and the parents died in a car accident, so she lost her kids to the state. Accused of murdering two policemen, husband executed, in a cell for years on end with a Bible. That's it. I mean, talk about medieval, you know. Totally innocent. So this woman is so astonishing. She still blows my mind. She said at some point, this is another aspect. This is the one of courage, you know. At some point, she said, I finally realized I couldn't change anything, but they couldn't take my mind from me. So this is an extra piece now. But she just so blew my mind. It sounds so simple when she said it. She just thinks I mean, it's so mind-boggling. She realized, she decided in her cell on her own, she had just had a Bible, all this nightmare, after years, you know. She realized that she could change her mind. In other words, she realized that her suffering was coming from her mind, not from the nightmares. And she realized she could change the way she saw things. So she learned to work on her mind. She said she had all this discipline. She learned yoga. She had this discipline, mental practice to learn to stop her angry thoughts, stop the rage, stop the despair. Cognitively, you know, conceptually. She practiced. So she'd give herself permission for 5 minutes to be raging angry. Then she would stop and she would start the work again. She doesn't have a view of karma. She doesn't talk about Buddhism. She had this I would say she had this incredible intelligence that caused her to see that the world was a nightmare. She couldn't change it, but she could change her mind. And all I'm saying is it's like straight out of Buddha's mouth, you know. But can you even imagine? Most people I know in prison, nothing, who've been wrongly accused, they go mad. You go mad, you know. And you know why? Because they're not being approved of. This is the worst attachment of all. The worst attachment of all. The worst nightmare is when you're wrongly accused. We know ourselves. Your sister just says you did something wrong. It's torture. This is just describing Buddha's analysis of why we suffer, that's all. We all recognize it. And that's why it's also really incredible to talk about the qualities of the mind and how we're so capable, you know. That's why for me I find it so inspiring to read the yogis' life stories or to hear Lama Yeshe always spent time telling us about how extraordinarily powerful the mind is, how it's got enormous potential for happiness and joy, to how that's its nature. That's what I find is so encouraging, you know. So you can hear about the suffering, but there's methods here. There's methods, you know. There's methods. If you just heard about the suffering, you'd kill yourself. And all of it comes down to attachment. It's like we're this fractured person, you know, thinks we're nothing, desperate to get what it wants, to hear nice sounds, to hear nice praise, to get nice things, thinking that somehow will bring the satisfaction. But the satisfaction has to come from the inside, from cognitive, conceptual practice, learning to be satisfied, to think it. And then that follows. It's like when you start to play the piano, it's incredibly hard. You can't hardly get your fingers on the piano. You can't remember most of the theories. But like anything, you practice it. And eventually you can play music. But we know that when it comes to carpentry, music, cooking, but not when it comes to being happy. This is what's fascinating. You know, that's what Buddha's saying. We can learn to become a happy person. And how you do it is mentally with thoughts and slowly practicing. That's what practice is. Buddha is your best cognitive behavioral therapist you'll ever find. So I'm sitting forward again. So it's true, you're right. Where is she? You're right, Mooney. Where's Mooney? You see, I'm not comfortable. I'm sort of sitting forward like this. Look at me. I'm falling almost off my chair. I know, I sort of sit on the edge. So I was moving that's why I was moving towards the iPad, you see, to all the people. No, happy. That's fine. I'm just sitting on the edge. I'm okay. Any questions, people? What time is it? 8:20.
So what more specifically is the thought in giving up attachment? I'm wondering if it's watching our mind and seeing that following attachment is not satisfying, and then just coming
That's
to the
right.
realization,
Yeah.
just repeatedly watching that and coming to the realization
Yeah.
that that's not going to satisfy.
No, it's true. But you know what? This is the point, Bob. That again, that takes. I mean, you know, it's all in the lamb rim, and we hear it, but it doesn't. We don't join the dots. This is why the starting point for practice that gives a foundation is living in vows and purifying every day and controlling our body and speech. Don't even forget the mind. If we can begin to control our body, control our speech, do purification and live in vows, these are the most stupendous, most powerful, amazing atomic bombs under the delusion before you even begin overtly to work on the delusion. That's why, you know, we know in Tibetan traditions, they talk about the preliminary practices. Do you understand? The preliminary, nundro, preliminary practices. It's a bit like, for me, you decide you want to go to play tennis and you go to Federer. Can you please show me how to play tennis, Mr. Federer? And he'll look at you straight away and he'll realize you're 20, 30 pounds overweight and you're 10, or you forget you're 20 years too old as well, but forget, even if you're young and you know nothing about tennis, you've never seen a tennis racket, he straight away will give you preliminary practices, won't he? He'll say, go off for a year, get fit, go to the gym, get some really strong stamina, do jogging, learn about theories, learn about eating. And you'll say, no, Roger, you're not listening to me. Can you please show me how to make tennis, play tennis, and repeat his answer? That's preliminary practices because your body isn't ready yet. Well, our minds aren't ready to give up attachment. They're not ready to realize emptiness. They're not ready to practice love and compassion. We've got to control our body and speech first and live in vows and have purification. We sort of hear this, and it sounds a bit punitive, but this is where you prepare your mind. Even if you think of the lamb rim, starting just to control your body and speech. Instead of thinking, I've got to control my anger. You go to lunch at Thanksgiving or dinner, you know. I've got to control my anger with my grandpa. No, you've got to control your speech with your grandpa. The anger takes care of itself later. We've got to realize this. This is a stupendously powerful practice. So with the attachment, you're not giving up attachment, but you're deciding, I will keep my hand in my lap after the second piece. You don't focus on giving up attachment. You focus on keeping your hand out of the cake. That itself then will put atomic bombs under the attachment itself. And then it gives you the space to look at the mind later when it's peaceful. Do you understand me? It's just so powerful. But we just don't think it's powerful. We don't know, well, vows, purification, blah, blah, you know, prostration, blah, blah. I want to meditate. You're not saying that. I'm just saying this. You understand? So you can practice on your mind and attachment and be mindful until the cows come home. If you don't have a proper practice in living in vows and purification, nothing much will happen. We've got to have confidence in that and hear the logic of it because it's not evident to us. It's not evident immediately. Because you don't, you know, your therapist doesn't go off and tell you to do your preliminary practice before you start working on your technique. She'll talk about your mind. So it's a bit new to us in the West, you know. We just think it's religion or something. So they hugely help purify the mind. Because what you're trying to do is what we're trying to do is harness. We're trying to harness our energy, and energy has body, speech, and mind. Mind is the one, but the body and speech are the servants of the mind, and they're the ones that do the problem. It's the hand that goes to the cake. Driven by the attachment, yeah, it's the mouth that says the angry words. So control the mouth and the hand, you already conquered much of the problem. But for us, to try and control our speech in our lives is almost impossible, isn't it? But you sit and do your meditation, you do your prostrations, but you still can't control your speech. Something's missing, you know. Do you understand? We've got to vow. When you do your purification practice at the end of the day, you vow, I'm going to watch my speech like a hawk tomorrow. Then you won't have problems. Even though your mind's berserk, you won't express them and harm others. So controlling your body and speech first is a tremendously powerful practice. I always use my family as an example. We're not saints by any means, believe me. The 7 siblings, well now 6, one died last year, my older sister. Fell down their head on her brain and died. Anyway, we're all speedy and volatile like me, but we've been friends all our lives. There's 7 of us. We all used to fight when we were children. Then we went away and became our different things, came back and would fight at Christmas. And it's just what happens. But we stayed, friends. But, then we talk on the phone and Polly would criticize Judy and Mary would criticize Tony. You just can't help it with his family, isn't it? It's how it is. So it builds up all this hurt and resentment and pain, bad mouth. We didn't kill each other. We didn't fight physically. We just mouth. Well, somehow the last 20, 30 years, There's been this unspoken agreement that when we're together, we do not fight about things we disagree. And we have many different views, I promise. And second, when we're on the phone to each other, we never criticize each other. So somehow it's like by not doing those things, you create all this extra space for virtue to manifest between you. And you rejoice in each other. And we find plenty to talk about. We're not suppressing it. That's just speech, people. And we're not saints, I promise. If we can have one day where we don't say one negative word, and even if it's not about your mother, but look at what we do is talk about opinions. We spend all our day opinions about politicians and this and that and the world and blah. I mean, you're not harming anybody else. You're just harming yourself. That's what we don't realize too. When it comes to karma, we just think it sounds punitive. But abiding by the laws of karma is the practice that benefits oneself. When you can control your speech in one day, who do you think's the beneficiary? You. We don't realize that, you know. So it's a tremendous practice working with the body and speech. And that's why living in vows and doing purification every day. It's incredible, incredible practice. Puts atomic bombs under all the old tendencies, and then it makes it easier for the mind, easier to work on your mind. Without that, it's impossible to work on your mind. If you can't control your speech, how can you ever control your anger? It's not possible. If you can't control your hand with the food, you can't control attachment. It's too advanced to work on attachment until you can control the body and speech that drive, that serve the attachment. Do you understand, people? But yes, you're right, though. You practice control, you know, with the cake or the food, whatever. And it's hard because their habits are so strong. So that's why it's having the discipline. But the other one is on the bodhisattva path, when you can bring the bodhisattva path into it. There's incredible methods there to redeem your attachment. So you're going to eat the cake, have your boyfriend, live a regular life. Not all of us are going to go to the mountains and give up sex, drugs, and rock and roll and get renunciation. Then you decide you're going to live an ordinary life, which is driven by attachment. It's the nature of it. Then you have your bodhisattva view, and then you try to underpin your regular actions with bodhicitta. That is what transformed them. So then it's why when you have your food, before you shove it in your mouth, you think of it, you imagine offering it to others, you bless, and then you purify. That very action of eating becomes now a virtuous action, because what makes things virtuous or non-virtuous isn't the action itself, it's the reason behind it, the motivation behind it. So by using this approach, you can transform your attachment and your normal life. First level, entry level, junior school, grade 1 is learn to work with you. Junior school, grade 1 is control the hand. Junior school, then high school, grade 2. High school, not grade 2. High school is the middle scope where you now work with the attachment and analyze it, do this analysis we're talking, and learn to argue with it and not believe in the karmic appearance of delicious cake. That's working on attachment and learning to be satisfied. But then you have the bodhisattva one, and you underpin all this with bodhicitta and emptiness, and that's what transforms. So there's so many methods there to transform, you know. Are we communicating, people? I'm sure we are. 8:25. What else, people? On Zoom, any questions? Back to death. Maybe we should talk more about death. Or try to give attachment. So when you understand attachment, a little bit like this, and you've got your mummy there, or your dog, they're driven by attachment, 1,000,000%, you know. Then you know how to help them. So by loving them, being calm and peaceful and kind and supportive. You can't stop them dying, but you can love them, make them feel secure. Even your little doggy, make it feel secure. Love it. And this is where, so now, this is where we go more into this in the weekend. Rinpoche, of course, he's totally into all these practices. Seeing holy objects, touching holy objects, hearing holy objects, millions of mantras, and all these things might be a bit gobbledygook for us, but if we learn about it, even just mantras can be tremendously beneficial, you know, for people who are sick, dying, because it helps the mind at a subtler level, you know. And if you have confidence in the presence of Buddhas, it attracts the Buddhas, it attracts the holy beings to be there. And when people's minds are more sensitive at the time of sickness or death, they can be aware of and animals especially, can be aware of the presence of holy beings, you know. I mean, so many animals are really aware of spirits and things. They freak out. They're very sensitive. They can be aware of the Buddhas, there's no question. Even when in a coma, So it's a subtle level of helping. And it just pervades. If you have a calm room where you keep the troublemakers out and it's really peaceful, clean and lovely, and maybe especially if there's views and things, peaceful for the person to look into the sky, calm, quiet, clean, mantras playing very quiet, it can be very subtle, very quiet. They won't know why they're feeling peaceful because it's a conducive environment. When you're older and sicker or whatever, you're very sensitive. And the tiniest shift in the energy can be stressful, So you do everything you can to be as peaceful as possible. Keep your own emotions out of the door, You're there for that person's sake. Just to be relaxed, friendly, kind. And if there's a person anxious, your mummy, you tell her, talk about God. You might be a Buddhist, I don't care. Talk about God. Tell her God loves her. She'll love to hear that God loves her. You don't think God loves you, you think you're a creep. You tell her that God loves her. Tell her how heaven is beautiful. I've been reading about heaven lately, Mummy, and it's so lovely. Oh, I'm so looking forward to going there. You don't have to say she has to. Well, calm her mind down, or you praise her and thank her. Or you talk about, depending on her mind, you talk about compassion. If she's moved by it, you really just, whatever you say and do, if it's a sick person, is for their benefit. But we so confuse attachment, bring in the puppies and the cats and all gossip and rabbit on and shout and yell. It's attachment energy, It doesn't mean you be too strict with them and not allowed to have laughing. You've got to know the difference between attachment and love. This is so important, or peace. Because attachment's rampant when you're sick and dying, because you're holding on to everything, It gives you false feeling. You've got to be wise. So tomorrow we should go more into the 8 stages of death and talk about. We'll talk a bit now. We'll talk a bit more time here. Look, so let me talk about what. Let me ask questions. Come on, more about death. Any questions that have popped up, people?
And do you think the
What, sweetheart?
attachment of the family around the dying person can keep them from dying?
Yeah, it can keep their mind buoyant in an artificial way that's not helpful. So you've got to have the wisdom to know what's good for the person. You've just got to know. But I think we so often conflate all the family, makes them happy and talk about happy things. But it's so important for the person to be able to have a bit of space in their mind to deal with their own feelings and thoughts. And people would rather avoid that in a way. Some people, if they're not really working with themselves, it's quite hard to do that. But you've got to give them the space, and be supporting for that. Yeah, you've got to really know what's best, Yeah. So one of the it's just so funny, when I was doing this book, I thought it was nearly finished. This was years ago, and I'm thinking there's something missing, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. And I'd always heard about Pure Lands, you hear about Pure Lands, and I always thought, oh, Pure Lands are stupid. I don't want to know about Pure Lands, I'm going to be born as a human. I thought I don't want Pure Land. And then I remember after Lama Zopa's stroke, and the time one of his first things he did, one of the teachings he gave when he still couldn't talk properly, was in San Jose. Oh, it's up the road. We're on coast, East Coast, aren't we? That's right, California. And Venerable Holly was there, and she sent me a rough transcript. He'd given an Amitabha initiation, and then he talked about it. So let me just read a bit about it. It's very moving. It's very helpful. Because, but I'm not. I first have to tell you about Pure Lands, what they are. Okay, let's explain this. So basically, when it comes to the time of death, you've got basically from the Buddhist perspective, you've got two options that are useful, that you want: human birth or Pure Land. That's it. So one other thing, and also this sounds funny, but this is the way I was thinking when I did the book, and it really helped my mind. I think because we're so used to religion and so used to God running the show and God sends you to heaven or sends you to hell, these ideas, that someone else is in charge somehow, we tend to think, even as Buddhists, well, I'm sure if I'm a good girl, Lama Zopa will take care of me or something. We think like that quietly, but it's ridiculous. You gotta know. It sounds very funny. You've got to know what kind of rebirth you want, and you've got to plan for it. This sounds very hilarious to us. If you want to go on a holiday, I'll say, where do you want to go? You don't say, oh, whatever's best, then cross your fingers and wait till the day before the plane, hoping someone's decided. No, you've got to buy the ticket. You've got to decide where you want to go, and then you've got to create the causes to get there. We get that, but not when it comes to a future life. We think, no, I can't do that. No, Oh, I don't know what I want. I don't know, whatever's best. And you pray to the Buddha to take care of you. I mean, karma is you deciding. I mean, if we have to decide simple things like where I want to go and what I want to do, the very first step in everything is intention. As Lama Zopa says, everything exists on the tip of the wish. I want, I will, may I. You don't budge an inch if you don't have intention. And it's there every millisecond. And it determines everything you do. So why do you think you shouldn't decide what kind of rebirth you want? It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have it. You've got to create all the causes. You don't just say, oh, I want it, and then wait for it to come. You don't say, oh, I want to go to France, and then just sit there and wait for France to come. No. You've got to know where the plane is, have the ticket, have your bag packed, and go. So death is the same. I know it sounds very funny, but it's like that. So you've got two options. Human birth with a decent mother and father if you want to carry on your practice. Okay, if you want to play football, you can try and get a soccer family, whatever you want. I'm joking, but I'm serious. And then all the other option is a Pure Land. So what I realized was, and this is from Rinpoche's teaching, I didn't know about all that before. I'll read it to you. It's very, very interesting. Amitabha's Pure Land, he says, is the best one. Because, he says, it's the only one, Tsongkhapa says, it's the only one you can go, regular people can go to. So I'll get the teaching, but I've got to tell you what a Pure Land is. Where's the book? Keep losing it. Reading now. I hate what Mac have done with all the books. I can never find them. It all shows me the wrong books. Can't cope. Okay, let me tell you about Pure Lands. Got to talk a bit here. All right. So it's the Vajrayana system. According to the Vajrayana system, we have gross body or gross physical energy, gross body, inextricably linked with the gross mind, which is the sensory. Then you've got subtle body, which is the subtle nervous system, 72,000 subtle channels, you know, and through which coursing all this prana, this wind energy, subtle physical energy, and the states of mind connected to the wind energy, or our different states of mind. So roughly speaking, so the physical world consists of the four elements, okay? This is basically what they're saying. The physical world consists of the four elements. So the four elements out there, this one and this one, are the same four elements as this, just the same. Earth, air, fire, water, configurations of the four elements. So then you've got subtle mind, which is our mental states. So, and then you've got very subtle consciousness. So when you become a Buddha, okay, first of all, you've transformed your mind and it becomes the Dharmakaya. It's the term they use. It's the term in Sanskrit referring to enlightened mind. An enlightened mind doesn't need bodies, doesn't need a body. Your mind is pure, all pervasive, pervading the universe, knows that which exists, infinite wisdom, infinite compassion, infinite power. It's just pure awareness. It's like the way they talk about God. It's everywhere. That's how they talk. That's why I loved it as a Catholic. God was everywhere. I thought it was very nice. So now you think, well, what made you become a Buddha? Countless lives of incredible compassion. So you can't just sit there in the Dharmakaya blissing out. Out of your compassion, you only want to manifest in a grosser level in bodies for the sake of suffering sentient beings. So there's one kind of body you manifest in, which is the grosser body. So you will take a body looking like a human. Buddha Shakyamuni is the example of this Nirmanakaya, the emanation body. He took a form looking like a human, just like you and me. His mind got dumped into a mummy's womb and he took a human body. So of course he's not really a human, he's just pretending. But that's the form that's known, the grosser one, which is this gross one that we've got. And he manifests in that form. Why? So we can hear him and see him, because we're a bit thick. We can't communicate with his mind. So he manifests in a body for our benefit, which is the manifestation here, the grosser level. So he takes one of those bodies. Shakyamuni Buddha is that. Dalai Lama is said to be the Buddha. I mean, he won't admit it, of course. But so all the beings on this planet who are Buddhas, who are manifesting as ordinary humans, you can't see that they're Buddhas. They look like humans, You can't see. So that's the Nirmanakaya. Out of compassion, they manifest in those bodies. Then you've got a subtler body called the enjoyment body, which is really the transformation of the subtler physical energy. And that's manifested as all these Buddhas, all the deities in Tantra. I can't see any. Are there some? All these are Tsongkhapa. Not many Sambhogakayas, are there?
Chenrezig.
Where?
Chenrezig.
Okay, there's one example. Okay, so it's mainly Tantra, really. Okay, good. So mainly Tantra, there's these subtle light bodies they take that only the Arya bodhisattvas, only the bodhisattvas who realized emptiness can cognize them, can conceive them, because they've developed their subtle mind, they can see them. So that's one thing. So then we have bodies and we have a mind, but we can see that we don't float in the sky, do we? We have environments, don't we? So for us humans with a gross body, we live in an environment that's similar with gross physical energy, isn't it? But these Sambhogakaya forms, they also manifest out of their power subtle environment. So every Buddha has a nature, compassion, wisdom, and each of them manifests in the Sambhogakaya. Also, because they don't just float in the sky, they live in their own pure land. It's all real, subtle. It's real, just like hell realms are real, spirits are real, gods are real, and all they are the different minds of different sentient beings, depending on their negative or positive karma, their grosser physical energy, and have a grosser or subtler suffering or pleasant physical environment. So a hell being, which is a predominance of anger energy, you could argue that their mind is conjoined with predominantly fire energy. Well, the 4 elements is the nature of all the universe. So due to their negative karma, their body is basically manifesting as oneness with fire, and their environment, which is their karmic appearance of nightmarish suffering. Spirits, you could argue, their mind is mainly conjoined with air energy, and they're driven by attachment and flit from pillar to post and have these visions. We all have visions. What we see and have is our vision, our karmic vision that we have created due to karma. The universe is like this. And it's minds and matter. So Buddhas can work with this and manifest pure environments and pure forms in subtle light bodies where they can benefit sentient beings. So Amitabha's Pure Land, so let me get to the chapter, but I've got to find the book. I'll never work out Mac. Where's my books? I've got it. I keep downloading them, but I don't know where they are. Bookstore, no. Where is it? My books, Dharma books. Let's see if I can find it. Here, no, that's one. What's this one? Yeah, here we go. Okay. Where's the chapter? I'll read a bit to you. Practice your loved one. Born in Amitabha's Pure Land, page 31. Okay. All right. So in order to achieve enlightenment quickly for sentient beings, not for yourself, for sentient beings, we need to make sure we go to a Pure Land after we die. Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava mentions this, and in many of his teachings, Tsongkhapa says we should pray to be born, especially in Amitabha's Pure Land. Pray means I want. May I. You say, I pray to get an ice cream. You don't wait for someone to give it to you. You say, I want an ice cream. Well, guess what? You go get it. You've got to know what you want first, then you go get it. Same here. So you aspire. Pray means that. Aspire. You want to be born in a Pure Land. So because it's easy for us ordinary people, those with delusions, to be born there. I was surprised by that. In his text, Benefits of the Blissful Realm, for example, Lama Zopa says, when reciting, aspirations to be born in the Pure Lands, one should mainly focus on rebirth in Sukhavati, his Pure Land. In fact, yeah. So there are numberless Pure Lands because there are numberless Buddhas. All these manifestations, countless Buddhas, all manifesting in different forms that are representations of different states of mind. That's all it is. It's just psychology. Chenrezi's compassion, Manjushi's wisdom. These forms they manifest in, like a visual language. So the numberless Pure Lands, where you practice Tantra and achieve, the reason to go to Pure Land is to get enlightened quickly. Because you have a subtle light body. You don't need to have sex and drugs and rock and roll and sleep and food. Waste 90% of your life. You have bliss and have teachings day and night and get enlightened. Then come back to the humans where you're needed. So there are Vajrayaginis and Heruka's Pure Land. You can definitely become enlightened. And there is Tushita, Maitreya Buddha's Pure Land. And of course, you can pray to be born in Shambhala. So they don't just call it a Pure Land, something kind of different. I don't know. However, to be born in many of these Pure Lands is difficult. For some, you have to have achieved the 8th Bodhisattva level of the Mahayana path. Or be born in some of the lower Pure Lands, you have to have cut the ego, the ignorance holding the I as truly existent. That is, you need to have actualized the happiness, the bliss, the ultimate reality of no self. But you don't have to these realizations if you still have delusions. Your prayer to be God, Pure Lands won't. If you don't have these realizations, even if you want to go to these Pure Lands, you won't be able to. But however, as I mentioned, ordinary beings, those with delusions and for whom it is difficult to be born in other Pure Lands, can take rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land. And not only that, according to my root guru, Trijang Rinpoche, you can practice Tantra and become enlightened there. You get enlightened more quickly there, and then you can come back as a human to benefit others. So it's just a convenient way to get enlightened quickly. So then I figured, no, I like that. I wouldn't mind. I like quick, you know. So I thought, that's a good idea. I'll get born as Amitabha's Pure Land, so I can come back and be a human again, you know. So there's one of the practices in here, this lovely prayer by Tsongkhapa, what's it called? The prayer to be born in Amitabha's Pure Land. So when I hit the pillow at night, I switch on my iPad or my phone, and I have my voice reciting this prayer, and I listen to it as I go to sleep. The wish to be born there. The prayer to be reborn in Amitabha's Pure Land. It's in the book. It's in the back of this book. It's in the book. So the thing is, the point I'm getting at here is we have to have more confidence in this business of karma, which is that we run, they talk in the text all the time how we're completely driven by karma from pillar to post, we have no power. It's true, but we have to learn to learn to take control of it. So we have to have positive thoughts and confidence and want this. And we know in daily life you don't do it, you don't lift a finger if you don't say, I want to do that. Intention is the first step. So you have to know the causes you need to say, I want to go to Italy. And then don't be surprised when you get there, because you planned it. Well, a new rebirth is the same, people. So you got a human or Amitabha's Pure Land. They're your options. And a human, you want a decent Buddhist mother and father. You don't want to get born where you have to have your face covered, or have your vagina sewn up. That would be a hassle. Sorry, being rude, but get my point. I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, or racist, or what am I being, sectarian or something. You want a good rebirth, you have a good mummy and daddy with money in the bank and nice behavior and a nice country. Then you know how you do that? You live in your vows. If you live in vows of not killing, just the four results of not killing are: 1, a good human body; 2, a tendency to not kill; 3, you won't get killed or die young; 4, good environment where the food and the air and the water nourish you. Do you not want that? Forget Pure Land. Forget emptiness. It's not complicated. So you just don't kill. You want to have money in the bank so you can afford to practice and do what you want and have a happy life. And yes, so you don't steal. So if you don't steal, you won't get, if you practice not stealing, living in a vow, you won't have a tendency to steal. You won't get stolen from. You'll get everything you want, and the environment will be delicious and beautiful. We create the world, people. We create the universe. This is a very shocking idea, you know. But that's exactly what karma's saying. It's subtle, but it's all there in the literature. So we've got to realize we're in charge. So live in your vows, which creates the cause to have a decent future life. Then you aspire to go to Amitabha's Pure Land if you want to whiz off and get enlightened quickly. And you come back again, have fun, have 42 husbands and boyfriends, and you have no delusions, so you'll have fun as well. Are we communicating? We've got to realize we're in charge. I mean it. And the more confidence you've got, the more your intentions will be clear. You live in your vows, you practice every day, you die with a happy mind. Bye, see you later, and you're out of here. Okay, other things can happen. We've got to be confident. Practice, confident, you know, with confidence. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's when it blew my mind, you know. But Amitabha's Pure Land. Now I've lost it. 31. Then Rinpoche says also, this is a lovely prayer. And then also Rinpoche talks about, he says, you know, everything exists on the tip of the wish. There are many causes. Well, one is to want to go there. It sounds hilarious, but to want to go there. You want to go to France, the main cause is wanting to go there. Don't mystify it. Then the next is you've got to create the cause. Buy the ticket. Here, the cause is live in morality and live in vows. That's the cause. And then want particularly to go there, you know. And then also there's other practices like Amitabha Poa and all this transference of consciousness. And there's this sweet thing he says, Padmasambhava mentions. So Milarepa's disciple, Retungpa, said that if you have done all these practices, as soon as your consciousness leaves the body at the time of your death, You'll fly like an eagle to Amitabha's Pure Land. It's so good to read the teachings. It kind of can lift you, inspire, you know. That's all on that one. So I'm a fan now, okay? So I figure if I miss the plane to Amitabha's Pure Land, I'll get a human. And if I miss that, well, I'm in trouble. I'm sorry. So we've only got 2 options, so focus on those. I think it's time to go home now, okay? No, of course not. That's superstition. Flowers and plants and math and things are not good luck, are they? They're logical laws. Can you understand that? Will you agree with that? That's the Buddha's view about karma. It's not a possibility to be good luck and bad luck. It's total superstition. We only think it's good luck and bad luck because we don't know the laws. Like if you didn't know botany, you'd think it's good luck because one day the flower comes when the sun shines, or one day the flower comes because your hubby smiles at you. Then you think, well, flowers must come because my hubby smiled at me. Because you just don't know the right laws of botany, you know. There's no such thing as good luck and bad luck. And that's very shocking to us. But this is the Buddha saying about karma. It's a natural law that runs the universe. No one's running it. It's a very shocking view to have this. This is a very shocking idea. We've never heard of it. We either hear God's law or the Western materialist law, and we haven't learned half the reasons yet. So we say because we haven't discovered it, they say. So the idea that someone's come up with a view, don't believe me. You've got to check on Buddha. You might be a peanut saying dumb things to you. But this is how he talks, you know. Karma's a natural law. It's a natural law within which the universe runs. It's a very shocking concept. We've never heard of such a thing. So it takes a while to think about it. Okay, people, time to go home, I think.
Yeah. Terry has had her hand up.
Who, darling? Who's had your hand up? Who are you? Where?
Hi, Venerable.
Who are you?
It's Terry. I'm hiding in the corner.
Okay, darling, talk to me, sweetheart.
Thank you so much for these teachings. They've been very, very helpful to me. You've been talking a lot about death, as I hope mine comes out, which is a nice, calm death. But what happens when it comes quickly or violently? Like I had a nephew who was killed in a car accident. I don't even think he knew he was dying and he was dead. Exactly. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So all of that, I'm going to have to cover it more. You're going to be around tomorrow? Can you be around tomorrow? We've got 10 more minutes now. But in the book, okay, let's talk about that now. Seeing as you asked, I'll tell you that. The ideal scenario, of course, is to be ready, to be calm, to have the conditions perfect, and blah, blah, blah. But there are going to be situations in which suddenly, you know, your grandpa will drop dead and, you know, during dinner, things like this, it happens, or certainly accidents, you know. So in general, this death process of these 8 stages, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, go into more detail, they happen whether you die takes 3 days to die or whether you die in 1 second, that you go through these 8 stages very, you know, quickly or slowly. Either way, you go through the stages. So as far as the person is concerned, you know, as I'm saying, if you know, that what counts, what determines the karmic seed that will be triggered at that time of death before the breath stops, that will determine the life of the person that they'll take afterwards, that's triggered at the time before the breath stops. So that's the same for a person dying in an accident. It's the same for a person dying slowly. So the key factor is depends on what their mind is like at that time. So, I mean, not trying to be too depressing, but you can imagine having a kind of a shocking accident. If you can't see it coming, it's possible. But if you can, there can be a lot of fear there. There could easily be. I mean, my sister fell down the stairs and landed on her head, you know, in a massive pool of blood, instant kind of, not total death. She didn't die immediately, but total unconsciousness, you know. So it can be, depends on what's on the mind. It depends on what's on the mind. It depends on what's on the person's mind. If they were thinking of loving, kind thoughts, you could very well argue that moment of dying would be triggering that trigger a virtuous karmic seed that would cause them to get a good rebirth. But it depends more than on just that. It depends on the way they lived their life, if they were ethical, if they led a good life. So there's a lot of factors involved, you know. Do you understand? Does that make sense to me? What you're saying, what I'm saying?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, but the point is that there are lots of things we can do. This is why Rinpoche's book is full of all this advice. There's so many things we can do right at that time. If you were there, let's say you are at an accident, and there are things you can do to help that person, saying mantras in their ear, or helping them be peaceful, holding their hand or loving them or something. Depends on if they're conscious or not. And there are certainly things we can do remotely. I mean, one of the major ways, so many of the practices Rinpoche recommends are having monasteries do prayers and practices. I mean, you've got to have confidence in these types of things. I mean, if we're not used to the Buddhist approach, it might be a bit weird for us, but there's so many practices. But I do find, I must say, that many people with their pets, even if they're not Buddhists, they like the Buddhist view because people want to do something. So to feel they can do mantras makes people very happy sometimes, certainly for your loved ones as well. There's so many things you can do to help that person after they've died, after the mind has left the body even, but even before did your nephew die immediately? Where are you, Terry? Terry?
Sorry, I can't hear.
Did you, darling, are you there still?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My earbuds just gave out.
Okay.
I
So
heard,
did your
I heard
nephew
what you
die?
said, I just couldn't talk.
Did your nephew die suddenly?
He did. We don't, and he was a very kind man. I mean, he was
Right.
very beloved, and we think he was killed so abruptly that he probably didn't even realize he was in a car accident. So
Exactly. No, exactly. So I mean, it really does depend. I mean, a person led a good life. You can assume their mind was peaceful or virtuous at that moment, and that's advantageous, you know. Of course, we don't know. So many people, it's so hard to say. But the point is, there's so much we can do to help the person. That's right. In terms of prayers and practices, if people have those kinds of things, there's plenty you can do, you know, to help the person. Do you understand, Darren?
thank you.
Good job. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I know you don't have time, but are you going to discuss the bardo and things that we can do to train ourselves to be able to have more mastery of that state?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of the lamas talk a lot about the things we can do in the bardo, but Lama Zopa never discusses all that. And I would just say, from perspective that I understand, they're really quite advanced practices. I mean, if you can't work with your dreams and have lucid dreaming and know exactly what you're doing and work and meditate, and then you can't possibly work on the bardo. But the main one is to really emphasize living your life well, so that you live a life well, that you're in touch with impermanence, you're not afraid of death, then death will be very peaceful, and then your bardo will also be perfect. You don't have to worry about it. Basically, is the real approach. And if you're an advanced practitioner, then sure, that subtle level, you'll be able to work with it. But that's a pretty advanced practice. Do you understand? And those instructions in books and things, they're really advanced practices. If you can control your dreams, that's a sign you can control your bardo. Do you understand? So the real one is to live a happy. I mean, this is why Rinpoche talks a bit in here, and often Tsongkhapa talks this way too. There's lots of these powa practices. Powa meaning transference of consciousness. There's lots of those practices that people can do where you practice, and there's an Amitabha practice, and they're very advanced. But you practice throughout your life. And so at the time of death, you can learn to actually send your own consciousness through your crown chakra. But I mean, it implies incredible advanced practice. It implies you're a yogi already, you know. So as Lama Zopa says, I mean, the best transference of consciousness is to live a good life. And live in morality and vows and be ready for death, and it is guaranteed that death will be good, and it's guaranteed you'll get a decent rebirth, you know. Do you understand? Yeah. So we'll go into all this more tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday, isn't it? Yeah, okay. We'll go into more of this tomorrow. So then also we'll go to just mention some of the practices, and there's lots of things you can do. I mean, to help other people, there's practice you can do while they're still there. There's practice you can do when they stop breathing over their body the next 3 days. That's one of the common ones. The ideal scenario is to have your loved one be at home where you can be in charge of the process. That's the ideal. But I mean, I was talking to the person who runs the Kurukulla hospice, the FMT hospice service in Brisbane, which is quite big in Australia and is funded by the government and everything. It's quite successful. They, palliative care at home. They said most people now don't die at home. Most people die in institutions, you know. I'm used to in my time when my grandmother, we had the nuns come, did prayers for a couple of days, and it was very peaceful not at home. But that would be the ideal scenario, meaning you can be in charge of it. And I think with greatest respect to kind doctors and nurses, about the worst place to die is a hospital. It's full of drama and noise and people and banging doors and unless you're rich and got your own private room, it's a nightmare to be brought, because the noise in this is just so beyond distressing, you know, beyond distressing. The ideal is to really have a place that you can, like a friend of mine, her husband died in a nursing home, so she shooed out the doctors and nurses, locked the door, and stayed there for 3 days with him. And it's to do practices for 3 days at least. So it's when you treat it like a shrine room, people can do rotate, having people coming and do prayers. It's totally quiet. That's the ideal way to do it. The ideal way is that. Okay, if you've got signs, and there are signs that the consciousness has left sooner than the 3 days, then you don't need to. But much of the prayers are often for our benefit also, especially if it's the lamas, you know. So there's so many things you can do once they stop breathing. So many things to do the next 3 days, and many things over the next. They talk about the next 7 weeks, the 49 days, because what happens when you leave the body, you go to this kind of they call it intermediate state between this death and the next life, and that's really just like a dream state. It's just like a dream state. The experience of it is just like a dream state, and it's the more subtle level. So the greatest yogis can transform the death time and achieve Buddhahood then and get the Dharmakaya. And then the greatest yogis, if they can't do that, they can transform the intermediate state and get the Sambhogakaya. And the yogis can then transform rebirth and achieve the Nirmanakaya, these 3 bodies. And if any of you have got highest yoga tantra practices, these are incredibly important to combine with these practices of these, what they call the 3 kayas meditation. And we'll talk about this tomorrow. As Rinpoche says, it's the best way to die. And that's what these yogis have been practicing all their life, you know. We'll discuss all that tomorrow as well. So there's so many practices you can do, helping others, but of course, helping yourself, you know. Which makes it hopeful. You know, so hopeful because there's much we can do, especially to help others. And Rinpoche talks, even so there's practices and things you can do to help a person before they die to ensure they don't go to the lower realms. Then there are practices and prayers to do after they've stopped breathing to ensure they don't go to the lower realms. Then there's practices and prayers you can do after they've left the mind, even left the body, to make sure even that they make sure they don't get a bad rebirth. Then even if they are in a lower realm, there's still practices you can do to help. It's very optimistic, you know. Things we can do. Yeah.
Would you talk tomorrow, no time today, about, I know that in the United States there are laws that prevent the body from being left in the home?
Yes, I know, exactly. I'm sure there are. We have to know the laws. I know every country, every state is probably very different. I know when Lama Yeshe passed away in California in 1984, and I know I came at Vajrapani Institute. We had several days of ceremonies, and I came from England. And I remember then when Lama passed away at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. Then they were allowed to have his body, so they drove him in a pickup truck, very slowly from Los Angeles to Vajrapani Institute, and then he got $2 for a license from these special people who give permission for funerals, and we're able to have this whole ceremony at Vajrapani. So that's very different now. I know even later on in Santa Cruz, when a friend of mine went to the hospital to see her father who died, they wouldn't let us take the body. The laws have changed. Mm-hmm. So you have to know the laws.
My father-in-law died in the evening, and the law said that the police had to be called immediately. And then they came, and within an hour the body was gone.
I know, exactly. I think it's got to be wise sometimes too, isn't it? I mean, how do they know? I mean, if your daddy dies at 1 a.m. peacefully, I'm sorry, be skillful. You can be skillful. And as Lama Zopa says in the hospital, because I mean, if you die in a hospital, unless you've got your own room, the doctor and the hospitals might kindly let you have another bed if there's enough space. But you might have 2 hours if you're lucky. But the thing is, this is one of the things we're going to discuss as well. You've got to have your wits about you and know if your loved one's going to die in hospital. You've got to organise it in advance. And I see that the people they're very supportive and want to do what people want. So you should talk in advance and organise. And if she does die in the middle of the night, do not touch her. Please call me immediately. So that there's ways you can do it to get as much time as you can before they move the body. But I know again with my sister died. She fell down the stairs and fell on her head. Totally unconscious, but her mind was still there. So luckily I was able to get to Australia in time. All my sisters, we all brought up Catholics, but they've all given up any kind of spiritual path. So I kept saying, please keep her alive. No, she's dead, Robina. I said, oh, all right, I know she's dead, but keep her breathing, please. So then when I got to the hospital, it was very funny because my sister Jan, she's the oldest one, she was a fanatic Australian rules football fan. We say in Australia, barrack. It's a weird term. What team do you barrack for? So she barracked for the Sydney Swans. She even wrote her own memoir called My Lifelong Love Affair with the Sydney Swans. When her first match was when she was 4. Totally fanatic, red and white colours. Fanatic. I mean, she was fanatic, you know. And so they had even a red and white, her dressed up in a red and white football jersey, you know, in the bed, and they're all singing. They're all on, well, she was in the bed. I got there, and I was trying to get them to be peaceful. So I'm trying to say mantras in a bloody ear, right? They're all singing the Sydney Swans football song, you know, and then all crying, and then holding her legs, all the things you're not supposed to do. And I couldn't control. I mean, I have no control. And all of us are 6 bossy sisters, and my brother. So I mean, she probably preferred, and I was trying to say, she probably preferred the Sydney Swans song than my mantras. What can you do, you know? So anyway, they all said goodbyes and cried and left. So I had a couple of hours, and I was able to stay with my sister. Then the nurses asked me to leave. So because they had to do an autopsy because she fell down the stairs, then they took her to the fridge. So then you can ask the hospital to do that. So they took her to the fridge, and the nurse was a Burmese nurse, a Buddhist, and she said, "We promise we won't touch her, and we'll wheel her very gently." Took her to the fridge, you know, so she anyway had 2 days in the fridge, which was perfect. So I had prayers and practices done for her. So that's really helpful as well. If you can't have 2 days in the bed, you can ask to leave them in the fridge, and that's not uncommon. Sometimes they have them in bodies for 6 months while families and dramas happen, you know. So there's ways you can do it to keep the body as long as possible before they start interfering with it. And they were very kind at the hospital, you know. I remember at the time my friend in Santa Cruz died. They wouldn't let us take the body, but they very gently, we were there, they very gently zipped him up and put him in the ambulance and drove him as quietly as possible. We went to the mortuary and we sat all day with Paul and did prayers and things. And then at 4 o'clock we had to go, and we asked if we could stay and do prayers with him, and they said no. So we gave them a CD of the Gyuto monks chanting, and they put him in the morgue, in the fridge with all the other bodies, but they promised they'd play it. So all the other dead bodies got the Gyuto monks chanting as well. They promised they would. We don't know if they did. So those things you can do things if you can, you know, as long as possible. So with my sister, at least they kept her breathing, which meant her body, and that's the point about, we'll go into that more detail tomorrow, about keeping the body alive, keeping the brain breathing. You know, the Western view is you're dead. But if as Lama Zopa says very clearly, it doesn't say all this, but if the body's warm because the mind is still there, the consciousness, the subtle consciousness. The gross consciousness has ceased, no senses, but the subtle mind is still there, and that can be up to 3 days. So then the only reason they're able to keep them breathing is because the mind is there. So this is a difficulty about doing taking the organs. But yeah, so we'll talk about those things tomorrow.
So when you talk about mind, you're always talking about consciousness.
I mean, in conscious or mind, these words are synonymous in Buddhism. I'm not meaning the brain. That's right. The word mind and consciousness are virtually synonymous in Buddhism. I know in the West we tend to think consciousness has a slightly different, sort of deeper meaning, because we're so used to mind and brain, but not from the Buddhist perspective. That's why I mentioned this one doctor quoted in this book by this medical journalist who's in this business of, you know, organs and everything. He said, "I can say now with certainty that consciousness is not a function of the brain. I don't know what it is, but I can say that." So I think it's great. I mean, the Dalai Lama is doing he has many conferences over the years, all the different best brains in the West. And one of the things, is really researching this, you know. And so they said his scientist friends have made these special machines that he then gives them permission to put onto the brains of these yogis who sit in meditation for many days after they've died, to try and see if they can detect subtle consciousness. But he said they don't have enough machines. So when one of his yogis dies down in South India, by the time they send it down from Dharamsala, the yogi's left his body already. And then they need more machines, he said. So there's lots of research happening, which is really nice. People are kind of questioning their assumptions about what consciousness is, which I think can only be good, you know. All right, people? Enough for tonight? Okay. Thank you. Dang Trup Sem Chok Rinpoche. Ma Kye Panam Kye Guchi, Kye Panyam Pa Me Pa Yang, Gong Ne, Gong Tu, Pa Pa Shok. May compassion grow and grow and grow in the hearts of all. May we never give up, working on our own amazing minds, developing our own amazing potential for what? Nothing mysterious, for intelligence and kindness and joy. Can you imagine having happiness all the time? What a joke. but that's what we're capable of. And how you get it is you give up the rubbish, give up anger, give up attachment, give up depression, give up anxiety, and you end up with happiness. So simple, the joke. Doesn't cost a penny. And help others then. We can be useful to help others. Okay, that's it. Thank you, precious ones.